This is Ian with Build Brothers. Going to go ahead and do a quick digital inspection here at 6860 Petit Street in San Diego. We're on the roof now, and we've got what is widely referred to as a presidential shingle. Not exactly sure what manufacturer it is, but this shape is different than most of your neighbors. It is a high-end shingle, and it actually requires a little bit more skill and attention to detail when installing. In general, the condition of this roof is still in okay condition, and it is beginning to show some wear and tear from being the 15 years old. I would expect it to start to look pretty rough at the 25-year mark. We do have what looks to be a heat vent that was added after the fact, and it is not properly flashed, and I would expect that to create some problems in the future. Also, a couple things that stick out. This shingle, the manufacturer requires that we use valley metal in the valleys, and this is a California valley is what they've done here. So that's the first red flag that kind of jumps out at me as far as fundamental installation errors. This type of shingle does not like to waterproof in with the California valley method. There's three different standard ways to shingle a valley. It's woven, it's California method, and it's have a metal flashing running down the valley. Again, the manufacturer requires a metal valley flashing for this type of product. So it doesn't appear to be creating any issues at the moment, but there will be failures sooner than there should be because they skipped that step. It's a little cheaper to do it this way, and so sometimes a roofer will skip that step. You can see some foot traffic, kind of general wear and tear where the solar is installed. That's pretty common. Not much we can do about that. And there's some staining here and there around this roof that I'm trying to figure out what has caused that, whether it's a manufacturer defect on the shingle or something was up here that kind of created those issues. The shingle stagger is kind of how you space the shingles as you start to lay these shingles, and it's critical on this shape because it's hard to explain and hard to show you, but basically where the seams end up is very, very important. And the easiest place I found to show you that is over here. So we start from the edge of the roof and we find our first seam. Here's a seam here, and underneath it, here's a seam here, okay? That means that from here over, they're all full-length shingles, and so that seam ends up 1 inch away from itself all the way across the roof. The manufacturer wants 6 inches minimum between those seams, and on this one, we have 1 inch. If this shingle stagger is done correctly, we don't actually see any of the seams on this shingle because the overlap from the shingle above it should hide that seam. And so that's kind of a fundamental issue that I found right there. Then we see another one there. Now, if we actually go over to the area where the leak is happening, for whatever reason, I don't find a lot of exposed seams. We know that bad shingle stagger has continued right on through this entire roof plane because the only shingles that get cut are the ones on the edges. It's very inefficient and slow method to trim them in the field, and it just screws up your layout and your stagger. So the more I look around this roof, the more I see some very weird spacing, and it gets sloppy and it gets weird. And this style of shingle is kind of meant to confuse the eye and just look very rustic and it's made to look like wood shake. We see over here there's a line that kind of grabs your eye, and most of the roof doesn't look that way, and so those things start to raise question on, all right, is there fundamental issues throughout the roof? Does that mean the whole roof is failing? No, it just means that it won't last as long as it should have. Where did I find? So the one thing that the kind of pinpoint, the only pinpoint I've found so far, is this exposed seam right here above a flashing. And so if I were to pinpoint that leak, I think it's that. And how to fix it professionally, you can't really change the stagger because you can't get a shingle that's a different length, and so you almost just have to put some mastic over the top of that seam and hope for the best. But most of the time we find leaks on a shingle roof like this, it's going to be in the valley, around the chimney, around a skylight, and this is what we would call the field. There doesn't appear to be any penetrations through the roof except for this one right here, and the flashing appears to be done pretty well. Now let's see something.